Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, oh, yo, what up? Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. Uh, this time we had a slightly different intro music where you could hear special sound effects for your entertainment and amusement.
Oh, snap,
Uh,
they could hear us?
yes, no, they can hear me, not you.
Oh
Yeah,
man, if you could
yeah,
hear me, then I would add some sick beatboxing to
yeah, yeah.
that intro.
I should have done that.
And
Maybe next time.
maybe some "Arrah, scratching.
Yeah, we can arrange that for next time, or we can record it under very professional circumstances, as we always do. So that, yeah. So what's up, David?
Yo, hey, what's going on, man?
I
So
asked
you
you.
you sent me this video saying that this dude had the most powerful argument for the inspiration of the Quran, and that you were thinking of reverting to Islam after this dude's powerful argument. I said, well, we should take a closer look at this. And then I looked at the comments, and like Ali Dawa is like, this is brilliant. And so
Yeah,
it's got
yeah,
the
yeah.
stamp of approval of Ali Dawa. In fact, if we get a chance, after we go through the video, we should look at the comments on how people are praising this video for being so insanely brilliant and such a decisive refutation of critics
Well,
like
I
you.
want to keep this one not to the end, but show it right away. I mean, I saw the video and I thought, oh, okay, I don't know. And then I went through the comment section and I saw highlighted this comment here by Ali Dawa, which said, oh, not here, what's happening here? Which said, Assalamu alaikum, brilliant video, heart. Also liked by the creator of this video. The channel is called Arabic 101. And when I saw Ali Dawa praise this as a brilliant video, I thought, wow, this is just purely amazing. I will probably now convert to Islam again. But then I reached out to David and said, hey, David, I saw this video and it really convinced me that Islam is true. It shows us clear proof that the Quran is from Allah. So David said, hold on a minute, man. Hold on. Let me look at that. So here we are.
So here we are. So what's it got? 380,000 views. That's pretty decent sized video.
And it has 17,000 likes and an unknown number of dislikes because of YouTube's brilliant policies. So,
judging by the comments, those would have been overwhelmingly favorable.
yeah.
There would have been probably almost no dislikes because everyone says it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is clear to me that Allah has blessed you with Quranic knowledge. We believe in Allah and His Messenger, absolutely cleared the air of ignorance and doubt and left a shining light. Even the blind could recognize, but the hearts are turned to the truth only by the grace of Allah, and so on. So
very powerful, very powerful.
Yeah, we want to now consume this mind-blowing piece of information and give our thoughts in response to it. If you are not ready for this, I just want to give you a warning in advance. As we are watching this video, it might cause serious intentions of converting to Islam. If you want to protect yourself from that, you can leave now or close your cover ears.
Yeah, otherwise you might be Muslim by the end of this show.
Definitely. So, anything else, or do you want to jump in, David?
We should it's like pulling off a band-aid, man. Just gotta do it.
Yep, exactly, precisely. Then let's jump right into it. Oh, hello everyone, by the way. Hello, what's up everyone, by the way?
Yo.
Okay, let's start. All right. The title is The Strangest Proof That the Quran is from Allah.
Yeah, by the way, why is that, other than trying to get, because there was nothing strange about this. I mean, it's the same old stuff. So did you know anything strange about it?
I guess we can come to that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
Let's do this.
It's mind blowing. That's well all I know. All right, let's start it. Bismillah, in the name of Allah, and boom, let's go.
Every single book in the world must have an author. The Noble Quran is, therefore, no exception. It is a book, so it must have an author. All Muslims believe that Allah is the one who revealed the Quran to Prophet Muhammad, peace.
So my mind is already blown. Every book has an author, therefore the Quran also has an author. I'm already completely knocked out here. But yeah, let's go on.
And blessings be upon him. But those who do not believe so, they think otherwise. But who do they think wrote the Quran then? I mean, if they don't believe that the Quran is from Allah, then who is it from then? Because there aren't really many options, since Prophet Muhammad was the one who dictated the words to his companions, the writers of Wahi, to write it down. So if they don't think it's from Allah, then it should be one of these four options, simply because there isn't any other possibility. So it should either be that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, authored the Quran himself. The second possibility would be that he used the previous books, like the Bible or the Torah, to write the Quran. Third, a Christian or a Jewish person had helped Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to write the Quran. Or fourth, it was Satan who had helped the Prophet to write the Quran and tell him about the news of former nations that he hadn't witnessed.
There's something really weird here, which is that he says he lists four possibilities as authors of the Quran, but then this one is already Prophet Muhammad himself wrote it. This one is Prophet Muhammad wrote it by looking at previous books. This one is Prophet Muhammad wrote it with somebody else's help, and this one is Satan helped Prophet Muhammad write
it. So it's all Muhammad wrote it.
Yeah, did I miss something, or is that just?
It's just how did he go about writing it? But that's all one option. And notice he's already put this into a kind of false dichotomy, right? Like it's either from Allah or these four explanations. When there are other explanations, there are people who believe that the Quran existed in some form before the time of Muhammad, or that it came about after the time of Muhammad, and that Muhammad had nothing to do with it except maybe utilizing it for himself, or even that there are people who believe that Muhammad didn't exist. And that all of the stories about Muhammad were later fabrications on some scriptures that were circulating before the story about Muhammad was invented. So just to be clear, I didn't invent that, but I mean, and that's not my view. But for him to say that these are the only possibilities, it's either from Allah or it's this, then he's already got a problem here.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it is just a very reasonable explanation that Muhammad did indeed. I mean, he didn't write anything; he allegedly dictated the whole thing. I would say that he did dictate the whole thing with the help of information that he got from others by hearsay, and maybe even with deliberate help, as we can see in some narrations.
And by the way, one ongoing problem is he continues to act like it's not a combination of factors, right?
Yeah.
Like so, if Muhammad wrote it himself, then by himself without any help from previous scriptures, blah blah blah, then here's something you can't explain. Or if he's just copying previous books, aha, what about this? Or if he's getting someone's help, what about this? Haha,
yeah.
Right? And not what plagiarists actually do, namely get their stuff from a bunch of. Matter of fact, I used to grade papers when I was teaching philosophy of human nature and philosophical ethics at Fordham, and students had to write papers, and I would grade their papers, and I could tell when they started sounding like a different person, right? And I would search for that, and then you find it like on Wikipedia and find out someone just copied a paragraph out of Wikipedia. But notice, following this reasoning that this guy's going to use for his entire video, all a student would have to do is walk in and say, but look at my opening paragraph. That's not on Wikipedia. So you see, I couldn't have copied Wikipedia. It doesn't make sense. You could copy 50 different sources all in your same, all in one paper. You can get your material, and you could get it by listening to someone. You could get it by copying something. There's all sorts of ways you can get it. But so anyway, this guy should really take a basic logic class.
Yeah, you could theoretically believe in all of these 4 options if you believe that Satan exists. You could believe that the mix of all of these is true.
And I have to point out, you could even believe that some of it came from Allah, right? Like you could believe that Muhammad initially got some revelations, and then instead of remaining faithful, he started adding his own stuff to it. You could even say, hey, the Quran says if he fabricates a revelation, then Allah would sever his aorta, and that happened. So he obviously fabricated some of it. But notice, you could believe that Muhammad's getting some of the ideas out of his own head. And notice that could be intentionally or unintentionally. One, you could say he's crazy and he really does think he's getting these revelations, or you could say he's deliberately inventing them. You could believe in a combination that some of the things he knows he's inventing, some of the things he thinks are actually revelations. Previous books, some of it is coming from previous books, some of it isn't. Getting someone's help, some of it he's getting people's help, and different people's help from different groups. And you could also believe that Satan is actually inspiring verses, with good reason, since the Muslim sources themselves say that Satan inspired some of the Quranic revelations. Yeah. But notice all kinds of possibilities here. Go ahead.
Definitely. Sagras Özkan said, AP, you remind me of Sokka from Avatar. I've never seen Avatar. I don't know who that is, but...
Me too. I'm going to one day, but...
But I bet it's very interesting.
Must be some weird blue alien...
No, I think it's a different Avatar. I think this is a cartoon Avatar. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, the thing with the arrow on the head.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, I think maybe. I don't know. Let's move on. Let's see.
So these 4 are the only possibilities there are.
Only possibilities.
And was not.
That is not how it works. But yeah,
he keeps doing that. But go ahead.
From Allah. There are no other options as to where the Quran came from.
Well, there are lots of different options, such as that there is a compilation of sources. But we have already gone through that. Let's move on.
So, if we can disprove or refute these 4 possibilities, then we're left with the only remaining possibility.
Only one.
That it is from Allah.
That is again not how it works. So the entire premise here is already faulty, which is why the entire argument here fails from the very beginning.
Yeah, you could actually stop the entire live stream right now and say, okay, we do not need to hear anything else you say, because the way you've set it up is already false and stupid.
Yeah, it is already wrong off the very beginning. We have already... it has already debunked itself by basic logic, but we are just going to go on anyway.
And it's like, I mean, you'd have to actually come up with words like a false quadrilemma rather than, fallacy, a false dilemma, because it's given 4 options here. But you could actually think of it in terms of a series of false dilemmas, like it's either Allah or it's these options and so on. But notice, guys, fallacy, a false dilemma, it acts like you have to choose this or that when you don't, right? It's like I say, if I say I'm a prophet, I say, everyone, guess what? I'm a prophet. Either I'm getting my revelations from God, or I'm getting my revelations from a grilled cheese sandwich. You don't think I'm getting it from the grilled cheese sandwich, do you? Therefore, it's from God. You would all instantly notice how utterly idiotic that is. But that's what this guy is doing. Yeah. But it gets worse.
Let's go.
Possibilities one by one and see how they stack up.
Yes.
First, Prophet Muhammad was the one who authored the Quran himself. And if you do think so, then how can you explain the following problems? The first problem is the style of writing. We do know how the Prophet talked and what his style looked like. How? We do indeed have thousands of ahadith, which are the quotations and sayings of the Prophet. So we know exactly what the style of these sayings look like.
Like one objection from off the very beginning, I know hadith studies. I am aware of hadith studies, and one thing that is known is that the hadith, the narrations, the reports that we have are reports of what Muhammad allegedly said. They are not word for word transmissions of things that Muhammad actually word for word said. So we cannot know how Muhammad really talked.
Yeah. So in other words, you'll read 5 different hadiths,
Yeah.
and they will all be reporting what Muhammad said, but they will all be different.
Yeah.
In the way they said it, and it becomes clear they're not giving a perfect quotation that gives you the fine points of his, his speaking style. They're just, giving you the gist of what he said. Is that right?
Yeah. Second objection is also anyone who has ever written something is probably aware that you don't always write the way you speak.
Correct.
When I write something, I write in a much more formal way as opposed to when I speak here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, especially if you're writing something like the Quran, where it's more poetic, right? Like if you're composing verses of poetry.
Yeah.
In other words, so Homer composed the Iliad and the Odyssey. Imagine you had quotations from Homer and you said, well, this is just Homer talking while he's drinking a beer, and it sounds different from, the poetry version. Yeah, because some people have different styles. In other words, I mean, by the way, you could do this with anyone. So you could take any modern poet. Hey, I was having a chat with Alfred Lord Tennyson over here and T.S. Eliot, and these guys didn't sound at all like their poems. Therefore, they didn't author their poems. That would be insane and idiotic. And yet he just based it on that. With all of that said, you do have issues where, AP, where you're reading about these verses that were supposedly in the Quran, but that aren't in the Quran anymore. Like if the son of Adam had 2 valleys full of riches, he would long for a 3rd valley, and nothing would fill the belly of the son of Adam but dust. So notice, everyone, according to the Muslim sources, that was part of the Quran. It's not in the Quran anymore, right? It's a verse that was lost. When you ask Muslim scholars and apologists to explain why that is, the sloppy answer is, it was abrogated. Doesn't make any sense. Abrogation is supposed to be abrogations of commands. That's not a command about anything. That's talking about people wanting riches. One of the most common responses to that is that there was confusion in the Muslim community about whether that was just a quotation from Muhammad or whether it's in the Quran. Notice, if there was confusion in the Muslim community whether this quote is a quotation from Muhammad or it's actually Quranic revelation, this means that Muhammad's own companions couldn't tell the difference between what Muhammad was saying and the revelations he was putting into the Quran. So This entire point is just ridiculous.
There's nothing else that needs to be said. That was precisely what debunks it here. But other than that, just a very quick remark. If I want to sit here and recite something without even writing it, I will probably make sure that it sounds very different from the way I'm speaking right now, deliberately. If I do that with good intention of making it sound better, or if I'm being fraudulent and acting as if I was speaking from the mouth of somebody else, that's what I would do. And that's what Muhammad could have done as well. So this is not a refutation at all.
By the way, in fact, I mean, you could take this further and point out the problem. I mean, that this is actually a problem for the Quran, because he's pointing out that when people actually talk, they use, different styles from other people, and therefore it's a different style. But notice, pretty much everyone who speaks in the Quran has the same style, right? Jesus sounds like John the Baptist, who sounds like Abraham, who sounds like Moses. They all sound exactly the same, and yet they lived in completely different times. Several of the Islamic prophets spoke different languages and so on, and yet they all sound exactly the same.
Precisely.
And so it's all coming from one source, not from all those other people.
Yep. Precisely.
All kinds of problems here.
Take an expert to realize the big difference between the style of the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the style of the Quran.
Apparently the Islamic scholars couldn't figure it out, so I don't know.
It clearly shows 2 distinct styles of writing. The second problem, blaming the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the Quran. The Quran contains several blaming verses, or in Arabic, ayatul itab, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, is blamed for certain actions, like عفى الله
Oh my goodness.
عنك لما.
See, when the Quran is recited, the hypocrites and the disbelievers feel uncomfortable, and this is clear proof that Islam.
You're not
is
saying
true.
it right. You're doing. May God pardon you. Why did you give them permission before it became clear to you who are the truthful ones and who are the liars? And don't you know, AP, that if you say it like this, a bunch of people will think that it must come from God. I mean,
That was good.
that was dope.
Wow, man.
أذنت لهم حتى يتبين
Yeah.
or يا أيها.
Oh, so he doesn't even put the translation. He just recites it, and then yeah.
The translation's down there at the bottom.
Oh, my God.
يحرم ما أحل الله لك تبتغي مرضات أزواجك.
I find this one very funny. Like, he wants to, of course, make the argument that the Quran contains verses which blame or reprimand Muhammad. So, and if he himself is the author, why would they be included? But the verse that is listed, that is shown here as an example to that, is a verse that is precisely
the opposite,
there to give him an excuse to do things, a permission to do things that got him in trouble before.
Yeah, no, but notice, because this cuts both ways. This is brilliant, by the way. No, so this is the beginning of Surah 66. O Prophet, why should you forbid yourself what God has made lawful to you in order to please your wife? So Allah rebukes. So this is the argument. Allah here rebukes Muhammad, because Muhammad said, okay, I'm going to stop having sex with my slave girl after his wives complained. And then Allah comes back and reveals the opening verses of Surah 66. And he says, hey, why did you forbid your slave girl for yourself as as your sex slave? I didn't tell you to forbid that. I didn't tell you that. And Muhammad said, oh, okay, well, I'll go ahead and start having sex with my slave girl again, even though I swore an oath by Allah to my wives that I would stop having sex with this slave. Keep in mind, their real objection wasn't that he was having sex with a slave girl. It was that he was having sex with his slave girl in the beds of his wives, of his regular wives, right? So Hafsa goes out for some groceries. And Muhammad, I can knock one out real quick, get a little nooner with my sex slave in my wife Hafsa's bed. She comes home early and he's in trouble. So to shut his wives up, he says, I swear I'll never touch that woman again. That's when he gets the revelation. So notice, our good friend here, our Muslim friend is saying, you see, this verse blames Muhammad. Now, why would he invent something? Why would he make something up about blaming himself, telling him he shouldn't have sworn this oath? Because he wanted to have sex with his slave girl again, and he realized, man, I really messed up. Notice, guys, this would be like me. I mean, just imagine a situation like this where I promise that I'm going to do something, and then I don't want to keep that promise. And so I go, I got a revelation. God told me, you stupid idiot. Why'd you say that? And so I'm not going to keep my promise anymore. I'm going to break my promise because God told me. This guy actually takes that as confirmation that the revelations didn't come from you, that you're not impacting your own revelations, which is, I mean,
isn't it so weird? We look at this Quran verse, and you and I, and many of us think, this just looks like Muhammad himself made it up. We use this verse as
this is one of our go-to verses for this.
Yeah. And this guy says, look, in this verse, he blames himself. So how could he have made it up?
Only possible interpretation.
Wow, man. It is amazing.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
أزواجك. Or in this example, عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى. And there are many other examples belonging to the same category. So
Wait.
if it was the Prophet himself who wrote the Quran, why would he blame himself in front of his companions?
Very simple, but go ahead, David.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, even if you don't go with the you know, the dumb example he used and so on, Muhammad changed his mind a lot.
Yeah.
And so he would do something, and then his companions would complain to him about something, and then suddenly the revelations would change and tell Muhammad that he was wrong about this or that. Yeah, the idea that this somehow means none of this is coming from Muhammad would you'd have to defend the idea that one, a man would never change his mind about something, and two, that a man who's fabricating revelations, once he's changed his mind, would never say that God told him, you were wrong before, and this is the way to do it. And until you defend those, which I don't think you can, because that sounds insane to me, this whole point falls apart. So notice he's 0 for 2 here in this beginning.
I want to say it's very simple to me. I mean, the question here is, if he himself made up the Quran, or if he himself authored the Quran, then why would he blame himself inside the Quran? It's very simple. There are different possibilities, but I would say it is very common that authors actually criticize themselves in writings about themselves or about things, about other things, in autobiographies. If Muhammad was indeed a fraudster, if he made up all of this this idea that Allah is talking to him, if he was deceiving people the entire time, it is completely reasonable to put it into that scheme, to criticize yourself in the Quran for several things in order to then correct yourself. This does not in any way disprove the actual argument. But there is also the possibility that Muhammad was actually, I would say, ill, mentally ill. Others could believe possessed, and he did indeed believe that there was an entity speaking to him. And it is entirely possible that as he was creating these verses out of his mind, he was indeed criticizing himself from the perspective of that entity, or that entity in his head was criticizing him, was reprimanding him, maybe severely. And he included those things into the Quran because he genuinely believed that the source from which those things are coming is God, is Allah. It's all possible. I mean, how in the world does this in any way disprove the idea that Muhammad himself authored it?
Yeah, so this goes back to what I mentioned earlier, namely that if you believe that the source of Muhammad's revelations, or at least certain revelations, is his own mind, if he's somehow getting this from his own mind, you still have further possibilities of either he's getting it from his own mind intentionally, in other words, he's actually actively deceiving people and knows it, or two, it's unintentional, as you pointed out, that he's like mentally ill or something like that. And so if he's deliberately fabricating verses, then it's pretty straightforward why he might change his mind about something and then say, "Oh, God told me to change my mind about this." Or if he's getting these revelations and he actually thinks they're coming from something else, in that case, the revelations would seem to be influenced by his desires and his conscience. So perfectly reasonable given that idea. If he does something, feels guilty about it, then comes back, and then his next revelation is, "Shame on you for doing that, Muhammad." So anyway, the point is, these are all possibilities. Doesn't mean we're saying that any of these possibilities is the true one, but this guy's just dismissing all kinds of possibilities and saying, so this is completely, obviously, indisputably wrong. Let's go on to the next one. And he keeps doing that until, shocker, all that's left is it has to come from Allah. Yeah, but by the way, little side note, because we only talked about one example, but if he's saying that verses that would criticize or blame Muhammad for doing something wrong, that this rules out the idea that Muhammad could be the source of those. Notice you'd have to flip that, because we only looked at Surah 66, verses 1 to 2, where Allah is telling Muhammad that it's okay to have sex with his, go back to having sex with his slave girl after swearing an oath that he wouldn't. But there are a ton of passages like that, like when Muhammad wants to have more than 4 wives, and Allah says, "Yeah, you can have, you get as many as you want." Or the whole Zainab affair, where Allah tells him, and by the way, that's one of the blaming verses, right? Allah blames Muhammad for not wanting to, for being resistant to the idea of marrying Zainab, because he was worried everyone's going to say, "Hey, that's your adopted son's wife, you pervert." Right. And but Allah rebukes him for that. Shame on you for not wanting to marry and have sex with this woman that you were lusting after because you saw her half naked. Ha. Okay. And so that, anyway, that's the problem. The point is, if verses that are criticizing Muhammad for something are some sort of evidence that Muhammad's not the source, then wouldn't all these verses that have no purpose other than satisfying Muhammad's perverted desires be evidence that he was getting that from his own mind?
Apparently not. So you have been debunked, David. I don't know why you're still trying.
Refuted.
Been refuted. See.
Top G. Top G got us.
That's simply not logical.
Logical.
Keep in mind, AP, as long as you say logical while being completely illogical, you're logical.
Of course.
That's the rule. That's what they taught me in logic class.
That's how it works.
The Quran contains many prophecies about many events.
Here we go.
Some of which actually came true in the time of the Prophet. Like the one in Surah Ar-Rum. غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ في أدنى الأرض وهم من بعد غلبهم سيغلبون في بضع سنين. Or the prophecy about the liberation of Mecca.
Do you want to say anything about this wonderful prophecy?
The
Romans have been conquered in the neighboring land, but having been conquered, they will...
Do you have the passage?
I could pull it up here.
I mean, he's giving part of it. So the Romans have been conquered in the neighboring land, but having been conquered, they will conquer in a few years. There are so many problems with this, but if we're going to be going through Muslim videos where they make arguments for the Quran, we can go much more in depth about this one. I'm sure we will. So we'll just do a quick one really quick.
Is this the one? Hey, what am I doing? It's not Surah Ar-Rum. I just Googled.
Okay. What is wrong with you, man?
Where do I?
It's Surah 30. Surah 30. Surah 30 verses 1 through 5.
Okay, here I got it. I don't know how I landed on 60 instead of 30.
Okay, so you have the 3 letters at the beginning, and no one knows what they mean.
Alif Lam Mim. They are. Nobody knows. Anyway,
yeah, no one knows. No one knows. Just magic. So the Byzantines have been defeated in the nearest land, but they, after their defeat, will overcome within 3 to 9 years. Allah's pretty specific there. 3 to 9. To Allah belongs the command. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so can you bring up a hadith? What do you want me to text it to you?
You can just tell me what it is. Or can you tell me the number or what it says?
It's Termity. I just sent it to you. I mean, you could click on it. It's a link to sunnah.com.
You sent it to me on my phone.
Oh, you want me to send it email? I can do that too.
Oh, don't do it. I'll just type
I can,
it in.
I can send this in 8 different ways, man. 8
type
different ways.
a URL here.
Oh, okay, wait, I could just share it in the chat.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do that too. Technically.
Okay. So get the argument here, everyone, before we read this hadith. So the verses, the Quran verses, Surah 30 verses 1 through 5. The Byzantines have been defeated. By whom? Well, it's supposedly the Persians. So just so everyone understands the passage, you got the Byzantines, who those were Christians, and the Persians, who were not people of the book. So the unbelievers, the idolaters of Mecca, when they heard that the Byzantines had been defeated, they threw it in the face of the Muslims and said, ha, they're the people of the book like you, but they've been defeated by idolaters like us. You see, Allah is not helping you people of the book. And so the believers were sad. The Muslims were sad. But the verse said, but don't worry too much about it, because the Byzantines will come back and win a battle. Right? Now, notice this would be like, AP, I want to put this prophecy right here so it's preserved for the near future. The Pittsburgh Steelers were defeated and did not make the playoffs, the NFL playoffs this year. But I predict that they will soon, within a certain number of years, could be 9 or so, they will return to the playoffs. Okay, guess what? That's going to happen. I'm going to be proven a true prophet because of that. Because guess what? These games go back and forth. Seasons go back and forth. Same thing. The Byzantines and the Persians were fighting for a long time. Hey, they won a battle, but they'll eventually win a battle. Oh my goodness, it's true. So no. So anyway, the point is that the absurdity of the argument. But that's aside from some certain problems, namely.
But you're really understating how long those wars lasted, by the way. The Byzantine-Sasanian War, for example, was, according to the numbers given historically, from 602 to 628. And this was just one of the wars that were going on between the Roman or Eastern Roman Empire and the Persians. They were constantly at war for a very long time.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's like the overarching problem. There are many other problems, like whether what Muhammad said would happen actually happened within a 3 to 9 year period, and so on, and him even needing to change the duration and so on to make it fit. But then one additional problem, that's why I said we could just do this quickly by just reading a hadith. According to the Muslim sources are all over the place on when these revelations were received. And some of the hadiths even say that Muhammad received the revelation after the Romans, the Byzantines, came back and won their victory. And here's an example. This is Jami at-Tirmidhi, 3192. I recommend everyone saving this for whenever this argument pops up. Abu Sa'id narrated, pay attention, everyone, on the day of Badr. So we're talking about Battle of Badr times. So after the move to Medina. On the day of Badr, the Romans had a victory over the Persians. So notice years earlier, the Persians had won a victory over the Romans. Now the Romans had a victory over the Persians during the time of Badr. So the believers were pleased with that. Then the following was revealed. Aleph Lam Mim, the Romans have been defeated, up to the saying, the believers will rejoice. Guys, notice, because I notice this is a lot, but get the main point. The idea is originally, so the Muslim theory is that the Persians defeated the Byzantines in a battle, and that Muhammad prophesied that the Romans would eventually come back and win a battle. Ooh, shocker. That would be shocking if he was right, even though I could have said, yep, pretty much definitely that's going to happen. That's obvious. Anyone can know that. But according to this, it wasn't until after the Romans came back and won a victory that Muhammad received this revelation saying, you see, the Romans are going to come back and win a victory. Did you catch that? So look, on the day of Badr, so this is years after the Persians had won their victory, the Romans had a victory. So notice, it's already happening right now. The Romans had a victory. So the believers were pleased with that. Then the following was revealed. Then the verses were revealed. So this is supposedly a prophecy that was revealed after everything already happened. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing? Wow. Shocker. I predict that there's going to be a pandemic a couple years ago. Oh, it happened.
I remember there's also a narration of which says that the revelation of these verses happened as the fighting was taking place, and part of it was revealed after a Persian victory, while the other was revealed after the Roman victory. So these verses were like revealed as it was happening.
Yeah,
so it was with a different timeline.
The Muslim sources are all over the place on this. You could basically pick any scenario you want and find hadiths to back it up. And so the point is, how are we supposed to now? What our Muslim friends will do is they'll throw out passages like this. This is clearly wrong because it must have been revealed before, and they'll just pick and choose. Guys, we're not in that position. We're not in that position. You are trying to prove us, and your own sources say that Muhammad received the revelation after the Romans came back and won. Wow. So notice this. I mean, we'll wait and see who wins the Super Bowl this year, and then after it happens, I'll say, "You see, that team will win the Super Bowl," and all my followers can go, "Oh, it's amazing that he knew this after it happened." It's the proof. The proof he couldn't have invented this. He couldn't have come from Muhammad. This is amazing.
This is the proof that Islam is true.
But by the way, notice, because this ties into what we're saying earlier. Just imagine this, right? Because our friend is saying, our Muslim friend here is saying, you see, Muhammad could not have been the source of the revelation, because how would he be able to prophesy something like that? Yeah. One, any idiot in the world could have made that exact same prophecy, if it were a prophecy. And two, according to Muslim sources, Muhammad came up with this after it already happened.
Yeah.
And this refutes the idea that Muhammad received this revelation from his own head. Insane.
It proves that the Quran is from Allah. This is the strangest proof that the Quran is. Why is it the strangest proof? I mean, you
but if you say it like this, it is the strangest proof. Now you believe.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Or the prophecy about the liberation of Mecca.
That's another one.
In Surah Al-Fath. لا تدخلن المسجد الحرام إن شاء الله آمنين.
It's the pain of the stupidity of the argument, combined with thinking that if you say it like that, it makes a terrible argument better.
So it was also prophesied that they will surely enter Mecca without any fear, having shaved their heads and cut their hair, and this came true. Therefore, this was from Allah. How can you possibly debunk this, David?
You want to? I mean, we don't have to, depending on how long you want to spend on this. But if you want to go to that passage, you see some serious problems with that passage.
I think it's pretty straightforward, but we could go there anyway.
Okay, hang on. Okay, so notice. He's interpreting this to refer, maybe I misunderstood. Is he interpreting this to refer to the conquest of Mecca?
I believe so, right?
Like a prophecy, right?
That's what I
heard. Or Fath Mecca. Or the prophecy about the liberation of Mecca.
Yes. Liberation of Mecca.
Mecca.
Yeah. Wow. That's what I thought he said, and that is horrible. And why is it horrible? Well, if you read it, this isn't about the conquest of Mecca at all. This is about Muhammad defending himself at over the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Right. So here's what happens. This is so dumb. Well, again, we could go into a lot more detail on this, and we might in future episodes if anyone else uses this ridiculous point. But so Muhammad is in Medina, and he tells his followers that he's, if I'm recalling this correctly, I believe this is all correct. Anyone can correct me on some details, but Muhammad receives some sort of vision of Muslims doing their Hajj and going to Mecca and so on. And so they go there without weapons. So they don't go there like an army. They go there. They're showing up like just like pilgrims on their pilgrimage. Then the Meccans come out and they say, we got a problem here at Hudaybiyah. And so then they have a discussion and they agree to a treaty where Muslims can come back later and do it without any problems. But this year they have to go home. Muhammad's followers, it said every single one of them thought, wait, your vision meant that we were going down here and this was going to happen now. And so they're taking it as like a false prophecy. And then so you have these passages in this surah which are Muhammad's, no, this is actually the victory. We are going to be able to do it because of this treaty. So this isn't about conquering Mecca. This is because of this treaty, we're going to be able to take the pilgrimage to Mecca now. So it's a victory and a confirmation of my vision, which you all thought meant that we're going down here and we're going to go down and be able to take the pilgrimage now. No, it's not going to happen, but we'll be able to come back later and do it. Let me one second. So this is the study Quran. So he gave verse 27, right?
Is it 27? Yes, I think so.
Surely God has fulfilled for his
27.
messenger. Yeah. Surely God has fulfilled for his messenger the vision in truth, the vision that he got that Muslims were going to be able to take the pilgrimage, right? And they're the entire verse is because his followers thought he had told them they were going to be able to do this now. And they complained and said, your vision turned out to be false. It looks like we can't even trust you anymore. And he's saying, no, surely God has fulfilled for his messenger the vision in truth. You shall enter the sacred mosque in security, if God wills, with the hair of your heads shaven or cut, not fearing. For he knows what you know not, and he has given you therewithal a victory nigh. So what's he actually saying? Guys, because of this treaty, we're going to be able to come back and do it safely. So it's better, and this is the confirmation. Just a commentary from the study Quran right here, so Muslim commentary. This verse refers to the dream that had prompted the Prophet to perform the minor pilgrimage that resulted in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The Prophet saw himself entering Mecca and circumambulating the Kaaba. He told his companions about this while they were still in Medina. When they traveled to Mecca in the year of Hudaybiyah, none of them doubted what the Prophet's vision would come true that year. When the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was concluded and they had to return to Medina without performing the pilgrimage as expected, some of the companions were saddened and dejected. Umar ibn al-Khattab asked the Prophet, "Didst thou not tell us that we would go to the house and perform the circumambulation around it?" The Prophet responded, "Yes, but did I tell you that you would do it this year?" Notice he tells everyone to get dressed. They all take this huge journey all the way down there. And then they go, what now we got to go back and we don't even get to do all this stuff. And he says, but I didn't say it would be this year when I told you I had a vision. And then I told you all to get dressed for our pilgrimage. So notice that anyway, the point is, this isn't about the conquest of Mecca. He's using this once again as the refutation of the idea that Muhammad's getting his own revelations or getting revelations from his own mind. Because how could Muhammad have predicted this? Predicted what? He just agreed to a treaty. And because of the treaty, he was now allowed to go to Mecca in safety. And he says, hey, now we get to go there in safety. And our guy's taking this as a miraculous fulfilled prophecy.
And imagine a bunch of people follow this prophet guy because they believe that he is the prophet of Allah, and he does everything deliberately by the guidance of Allah. He takes all his people, makes them dress up for pilgrimage, makes them walk a long way to go to the pilgrimage because he promises them that they will be able to perform the pilgrimage. They go there, are rejected, have to come back next year. And instead of taking this as a little bit of a question, people 2,000 years or 1,400 years later come here and say, hey, that incident actually proves that the Quran is from Allah, because in that incident, Allah said that they will be able to do it eventually, and eventually it happened. So therefore, it is from Allah. I mean, it is idiotic. It is dumb.
It's insanely idiotic. And notice, little side note. Obviously, if his claim is that Muhammad couldn't have prophesied these things, therefore they couldn't have come from him, and we can assume that he went with what he regards as the best possible examples.
Yeah.
So in the first case, he went to something that anyone on the planet could have told him. Hey, the Romans will eventually win a victory too. And according to even Muslim hadiths, it was revealed after it already happened. And he's got this other one that he says refers to, how can Muhammad know that he would conquer Mecca? And it's not about conquering Mecca at all.
Yeah. Okay, wow. Let's move on. Let's see. There's definitely more here which will convince us that Islam is true. So let's see.
آمنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون. If the Prophet wrote the Quran himself, how could he have known things that were going to happen in the future? Wouldn't it be a
like
big
the things that already happened?
That is among your companions. If he predicted that something would happen and it didn't happen, the fourth.
I could give a lot of examples of things that are actually predicted and that didn't come true.
Yeah, didn't he say things were going to happen and then they never happened?
Yeah, a lot of things he said. For example, I mean, just one example that I can think of prominently, he's reported as saying that before this boy gets old, the hour will come. The hour 100% every single time in these reports refers to the day of judgment, the end of time. He says very clearly, looking at a young boy, before this boy gets very old, the hour will come, or the hour will be established. I think the actual wording in the most credible report is the hour will not be established before this boy becomes very old. The boy is probably long dead. 1,400 years later, the hour has still not come. We are still waiting for it, and Muslims are still using different prophecies as proof that it is probably about to come. And if you want to look at the Quran, I mean, the Quran also, in connection with Muhammad's prophecy, says that these tribes, Yajuj and Majuj, will soon come and overrun the world, and all of that never happened, never possible to happen, and so on.
Yeah. According to Yasser Qadi, they might be underground zombies. So don't say no. So never say never. Never say never.
They are probably underground zombies, and they are digging this hole, and they forget to say, tomorrow we will finish it, inshallah. They forget to say inshallah. That's why they can never get out of it. But one day they will remember to say inshallah, and then they will get out. So that's what's going to happen, man.
So, no, if he wanted to make his argument better here, he should say, but Muhammad said so many things that are so idiotically false, and that we know that if Muhammad were making up the Quran, it would have been filled with tons of false prophecies, because that's all Muhammad ever spouted.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic argument here.
It'd be a better argument than the one he uses.
Yeah.
The problem is the delay of revelations. In certain instances, the wahi, or the revelation, was delayed. Like when a Jewish man came to the Prophet asking him about the people of the cave. But the Prophet said that he would answer him tomorrow, expecting the wahi, but without saying inshallah. And so the wahi.
Oh, I can't. I want to finish it, but I just can't resist. This is so stupid. I have used this in the past. You have used this in the past. I bet others have used this in the past to say, hey, this clearly shows that he was not guided by an all-knowing Allah, and that he was clearly not reliable, that he was clearly getting his information from somewhere else. But this guy is actually using this example as proof that the Quran is from Allah. I don't understand.
Yeah, guys. So he's giving specifics here, but understand the general argument that AP is making fun of, ladies and gentlemen. So, people would come to Muhammad.
Can we quickly finish the point? And then,
yeah.
Wahi was delayed. Also, when his own.
Okay, it was finished. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the argument is, if Muhammad were coming up with revelations from his own mind, then whenever anyone asks him a question, he would just answer them from his own mind real quick. But sometimes when they're asking him about stuff to see if he knows about stuff, because keep in mind, they're testing him. Well, what about the people of the cave? Can you explain what that is, Muhammad? Can you give us the truth about that? And this guy's argument is, well, sometimes Muhammad would delay a long time before he answered, and that must mean that he's waiting for the revelation. And what AP is saying is, it's more like he's going around asking people about this so he can give a response, right? Like he has to do a little bit of research. In other words, hey, I don't know the answer to that. Let me go and ask around until I find it. And then once he's figured it out, then he comes back, I've received a revelation. Right?
Yeah. So what's actually happening in this example that this guy gives us here is that allegedly, according to some reports, some Jews come to Muhammad and ask him about a certain incident. I don't understand why Jews would come and ask him about the people of the cave. I don't know how much you can actually rely on the details of those reports, but so they come and ask him about different questions, including the people of the cave, and Muhammad then says, "I will come back to you with an answer tomorrow," which is already weird. I mean, I would expect a prophet who is guided by an all-knowing Allah all the time. I would expect that he would immediately give an answer to something that he doesn't really know and give an amazing answer.
He had to go. He had to go clear out the puppies.
Yeah, Muhammad has to go and says, "You know what? I will come back with an answer tomorrow." And then Muhammad disappears for a while and doesn't come back. And they're like, well, "So what happened to the question?" And then he's like, "Oh, I forgot to say inshallah back then, but now I am back." Like, a while later, now I'm back and now I have your answers. And then he gives them the answers and talks about the people of the cave. And the people of the cave, a story or a myth about several people in a Christian Roman land who fled from, who in a pagan Roman land, fled from persecution, hid inside a cave, fell asleep, and then woke up about 300 years later when the Roman Empire was Christian, and they were suddenly they were shocked by this. This is a story or a myth about such a miracle believed by common people in that time. And Muhammad then learns about this from some source and finally tells the story a while later, and the story is then also included in the Quran in a very vague and strange way. I have actually made a video on this in detail, and you can watch the details there. It's called "The Men Who Slept for 300 Years: The Companions of the Cave," in which I also went through all the sources that are given here. Do you remember which verses those were? Which chapter? Which?
No,
I think it's
Surah 18.
It's 18.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. 18. Because notice
18 right before the Zulkarnain story, right?
That's part of the same section. That's all part of the same section. Surah 18 is answering people challenging his knowledge of these topics. And notice what he does in that chapter. So it's he
also talks about Zulkarnain there.
Yeah. What about the sleepers of the cave, Muhammad? Do you know about that? And the correct response should have been, guys, that's a bedtime story. That's not something that actually happened. That didn't actually happen, guys. That should have been the response. Instead, he tells the story. He tells the same story, but gives it an Islamic twist. And then what about Zulkarnain? What about him? The correct response should have been, guys, you've heard a bunch of what are called the Alexander romances, and they're not true. They're not true. These things aren't true. Instead, he gives the same thing that we find in what's called the glorious deeds of Alexander and so on, and some of the other Alexander romances, even the the story of the zombies, which doesn't say zombies and so on, but that's the idea of these whatever they are, these things, whatever they are, the Muslims helping to build this giant wall, or I mean, assuming Zulkarnain's Muslim followers, they help build this wall to keep these guys out, and the wall's still there, and that these guys are eventually going to break out and so on. These are all myths. So notice this guy is bringing these points up, which are these are main points we go to show that Muhammad's plagiarizing stuff. So notice, someone would ask Muhammad a question. It would be obvious that he plagiarized it because he says a bunch of false things that are indisputable myths, right? And somehow in a Muslim video, he says, but since Muhammad took a while to respond to these things, that proves that it must have come from Allah.
Yeah.
Really wild stuff.
So, and this is where it talks about that in the Quran specifically. Chapter 18, verse 9, it begins with this. Have you thought about the companions of the cave? And the inscription were among our signs a wonder. When the youth retreated to the cave and said, our Lord, grant us from yourself mercy and prepare us from our for us from our affair right guidance. So we cast over their ears within the cave for a number of years. And the Quran is very vague about what actually happened according to the story. Then they awakened, or then we awakened them, that we might show which of the two factions was most precise in calculating what they had remained in time, what extent they had remained in time. Wonderful writing here. It is we who relate to you, O Muhammad, their story in truth. Indeed, they were youths who believed in their Lord. Anyway, so this whole story is in a very dumbed down, vague version described here in the Quran, which Muhammad probably, as it seems, was challenged, asked, and then learned from somebody who knew the story. And this story is then included in the Quran, and it is just so problematic in and of itself, the inclusion of this entire story, because so Allah tells us, according to the Quran, that these guys were believers and they fled persecution and they went to a cave, and Allah made them sleep for 3 centuries or something close. And they woke up in a land where their beliefs were suddenly accepted, and they were in a good land where the true faith was being followed. But what actually happened, according to the myths, is that this took place in the pagan Roman Empire. These people were Christian believers who were persecuted. They fled to a nearby cave, went to sleep there, woke up 300 years later, and realized that the Roman Empire has converted to Christianity, and they are now embraced in a land where people believe in the true God. You know what the funny thing about this whole thing is? If we accept that the story is true for a second, then we must also assume that these people woke up guided by Allah as a miracle, and saw a land in which people believe in the one true faith. Can you guess which true faith we're talking about? We're talking about Christianity, which had crosses everywhere, in which people believed in Jesus as the Son of God and as God, in which people followed the Christianity as the Roman Empire adopted and propagated it. Is that the true belief, the real belief in the one true God according to the Quran? It's not. You are not supposed to believe in that. People who believe in that are supposed to go to hell and stay there forever, according to the Quran. That's what it says multiple times. But if we take this story as true, then Allah is referring to these people as true believers who came into an environment where true belief had firmly had taken a hold, and it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. And this just adds more to the whole idea that Muhammad stole this story from other people who were simply repeating myths that they heard from others. But this guy here comes and says, he waited for a while, and the revelation was delayed, and this clearly shows that it came from Allah. How that shows anything is still beyond me. I still don't understand, but yeah.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, wild stuff.
By the way, has he made, we're 6 minutes into the video, has he made any point so far that is not completely ridiculous and stupid?
It is all incredibly stupid, and I really wonder what the next point here is.
Yeah, and guys, I just want to, because people are so polarized nowadays, and everyone just, anything they agree with they call brilliant, and anything they disagree with they call stupid. That's not what we're doing here, right? There are brilliant people on all sides of all kinds of issues, and there are people who have good arguments against things that I believe, that you believe, and so on. Because a good argument does not mean that it's true. It's just, okay, you've got some evidence for your premises, and your logic is valid, so the conclusion seems to follow from your premises. And so what do you do in that situation? Well, sometimes you say, okay, well, here's an argument, and I understand that argument, and well, I think this argument over here is better. I think this argument is better. So you can say, hey, this guy's making a good point, or he's got a good argument, that I nevertheless, because of other arguments and other evidence, I don't accept his argument as a decisive refutation of my views. That's not what we're doing here. This is just stupid. This is stupid and insane and idiotic, right? There's nothing that's remotely even a good point here. And
But
yet,
David said it is stupid. That's why he has no answer at all. He has
yeah,
been debunked.
the criterion, and because the reason I brought that up is because the real criterion of a good argument in Islam seems to be, does it support Islam? That's the criterion. If it supports Islam, then it doesn't matter how stupid the argument is. It's just treated by the Dawa gangs and so on as a decisive refutation of anything else. And guys, that's just.
Did you know that one of the names of the Quran is Furqan, and that is also translated as criterion, and you have just used it over and over again, which just clearly proves that Islam is true, you see.
But what you don't realize, AP, is that there's a book called The True Furqan, which is an entire Christian, a Christian response to the Muslim challenge of writing something like it.
Oh, well, I don't know about
that. And that Muslims themselves can't tell the difference between the Quran and the True Furqan.
Islam is true, end of story.
His wife was falsely accused in her honor. The wahi was delayed as well, which was a very...
I don't even want to go into this. It is, again, a whole long story, but...
very difficult time for the Prophet, peace be upon him. If he was the one making the Quran, wouldn't it have been more convenient for him to just come up with an answer in these situations and clear his name and his wife's among his companions?
No, not at all.
These were not the only two incidents, but there are other situations in which the Prophet couldn't give a direct answer because he had to wait for the wahi.
And this shows that Allah wrote the Quran. So this is again an incident where his wife Aisha, according to the story, is held back because
her bracelet
fell down and she was looking for it,
or because she was boning.
Yeah, or she was making out with some other guy. Yeah, those are the two possibilities. And people said that she was left behind. She stood behind with this other guy, and it is very clear why. Why were those two together while everyone else went ahead? Well, they were making out. They were, committing adultery. Your wife, Muhammad, she was cheating on you, and Muhammad was very upset and very mad about that, and he didn't know what to do about this, and he was in seclusion for a while, and then finally Allah sent a revelation and said, "Oh, Muhammad, don't listen to the people. Your wife is innocent. She didn't do anything." And then everyone was happy and everyone rejoiced. And he said, "Alhamdulillah, Allah has finally shown me the answer. I was very worried." So, and this apparently proves that Allah is the author of the Quran. What do you say to that, David?
And Allah's brilliant solution was, well, how are you going to point a finger at her without 4 witnesses? Ha ha! Stumped you.
Yeah.
Andrew Tate should use that in court, right?
This is so stupid.
You say I raped her. Ha! Produce your 4 witnesses.
You are giving him ideas, man. If he hears this, he will probably do that.
Yeah. So notice in every situation, following this guy. I mean, my goodness, guys, if you were to actually take this seriously, what this guy's saying, then if you come up to me and you ask me a topic that I know nothing about, and say, "David, you're claiming to be a prophet. What about this topic?" And it's something I don't know about, and you're trying to stump me to see if I'm really getting it from God. And my response is, "I'll get back to you on that one at some point," and then I disappear for week, a month, or whatever, and come back. Ha ha! I finally know about that thing you asked me about. This guy actually takes that as proof that I'm a prophet, right? He takes it as proof that I wasn't getting this from my own mind or doing any sort of research or anything. I must be getting it from God because I took a bunch of time before I responded.
Yeah, let's make it very simple. Let's deconceptualize it. Let's very roughly imagine. I'm asking David here. So, David, you claim that you are a prophet. So, what do you say about? What do you know about this? That lemon that bounced off the wall. What do you think about that story?
I'm waiting for a revelation from that. Let me go over to Google here. Let me see. Google lemon bouncing off wall. Let me get back to you in a little while. Hey, a bunch of videos of lemons bouncing on the walls. Up, AP, I'm getting a revelation.
And this clearly shows that David is a true prophet and he got his revelations from Allah. See? Wow, man.
Powerful.
Google is Allah. Google is Allah. That's how it works.
Ali Dawah said it's brilliant. So
Yeah.
Problem number 5. The challenge.
there's more.
Quran contains many verses that challenge anyone who doesn't believe it.
Oh,
The challenge was to produce anything like it.
David, haven't you seen me produce many verses on my YouTube community tab, YouTube channel community tab that sounded just like the Quran, but even better?
Tons. In fact, those are some of your funniest posts when you sound exactly like the Quran, except you're just making fun of it.
Yeah. See, I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah, and I just mentioned that there's an entire book out there called The True Furqan. There are people who will go to Middle East and like just stand up on a bus and start reading from The True Furqan, which is like it's a Christian book that's meant to sound like the Quran. And Muslims who are getting up from the bus thank the man for reading the Quran to them, even though he wasn't. He was reading the true Furqan. So many problems with this ridiculous point. One, you had people who were meeting the challenge during the time of Muhammad. Al-Nadir was one of them. Al-Nadir was one of the guys in Mecca, and he would actually follow Muhammad around when Muhammad claimed that he had a new revelation. Al-Nadir would stand up and recite verses after him and say and challenge Muhammad's followers. In what way is Muhammad's verse better than mine? So notice he's meeting the challenge. By the way, you know what they did? They killed him. That's what they did when they got power. When they got power over him,
That's what he did.
They killed that dude. So you've got people meeting the challenge there. You've got people meeting the challenge many times since then. You've got AP meeting the challenge, and all you have to do really is uncover what the argument really is. Here's the real challenge. This is the real challenge that is in the minds of Muslims. Here it goes. We challenge you, unbelievers, to write something like the Quran. Bring forth your verses, and then we'll judge whether you've met the challenge. That's what they're saying, right? We'll decide. Shocker! We've concluded that nothing is better. I mean, my goodness, guys, anyone could do this. I could. AP, just say anything right now.
The mice are clean.
I challenge everyone in the world to produce something better than that. And if you can't, then AP is a true prophet. By the way, I'm judging the contest. Anyone want to try and refute him? And then anyone who responds to anything, I go, ha ha! That's pathetic. That's nothing compared to it. And this is the argument. This is the how is any of this being used as any sort of evidence at all? This is wild stuff.
I had a conversation a while ago with this Harvard professor, Shadi Nasser, and I actually asked him about that very specific thing. And he kind of gave an interesting explanation more. But if I were to write a competing book today, considering that the Quran makes a challenge and it says if they are truthful, then let them produce something like it, or let them produce something better. If I were to write a competing book today, would it be possible to say that this is objectively, so my book is objectively not equal to or better than the Quran?
No, because you will need 400 years for people to study your book in order to reach, and then by that time the Quran would have 2,800 years of people studying it, and it will always it's not going to happen. I mean, there's a famous Arab poet and writer. He wrote a competing book in the mid 4th century. That would be 10th century. His name is Abu al-Ala al-Ma'arri, very famous, one of like Shakespeare in English. And he wrote a book, a thick book, imitating the style of the Quran. It's published, it's available. It's called Al-Fusul wal-Ghayat. If people read Arabic on your channel and want to check it out, very eloquent. It's excellent masterpiece. And they asked him, what happened? They are making fun of him after he wrote it and published it. So what happened to your Quran? Why didn't it become famous? He said, well, it wasn't polished in mosques for 400 years.
Wow.
Right? And this is 10th century. So the point is, issues of superiority in style, it's not going to be an objective criterion where someone, oh, look, I produced something. People will always poke holes in whatever you write. And there's no really objective criteria to say, well, this verse or this poem is better than the other poem.
Yeah. So that was his whole point as well. There is just the challenge can never be met because people who want to protect this challenge and who believe in this challenge, who believe in the Quran, will always, first off, have a Quran which they prepared for many centuries, over a millennium. And no matter what you write, no matter how much you say, hey, look, I wrote something that is even better, they will always come and say, well, no, it's actually not better because of this, because of that. And they will always come up with new excuses. It is a challenge that has no proper rules, a challenge whose rules can be bent as much as possible by those who actually make the challenge. It is simply stupid.
Yeah, so guys, notice you could pick your favorite author of anything, your favorite musician, rapper, anything. Say, hey, Eminem's rhymes are so good, they must come from God. And if you disagree with me, then write something better than Eminem. And by the way, us Eminem fans we're gonna judge whether you've done something better than Eminem.
Good luck.
Absolutely ridiculous challenge, right? That's the main challenge of the Quran. That's the main challenge of the Quran. Notice how utterly stupid that is, because you can think of ways very easily to make the Quran better if it's quite, because just put it in order, put it in chronological order. That would massively improve things. That would massively help people understand it, because then you'd understand what is abrogating what, and you don't have to go to these massive multi-volume commentaries to try and understand what it's saying. Two, Allah could say what he really means, because every time I quote the Quran, Muslims say, that's not what he meant. Let us tell you what he really meant. And it's something completely different from what he says. So apparently you've got this completely disorganized, chaotic book filled with verses where Allah says the exact opposite of what he means. And there's no one could write something that amazing. And that's the challenge.
Precisely. I wanted to add something. Oh yeah, I always say the Quran is the Quran is not a good book to read. It's not fun to read. It's not enjoyable. It's not interesting. And in Muslim society, I mean, teachers have to keep kids there and to beat them, to force them to read the Quran. This is a well-known thing in the Muslim world, everywhere. So and that's how terrible the Quran is. It doesn't flow.
You just reminded me of Antony Flew. So Antony Flew was one of the great atheist philosophers of the 20th century, and he was asked about the Bible and the Quran and things like that, and he said. He was comparing the Bible and the Quran. He says, whatever your position, he goes, the Bible at least is an amazing work of literature. He goes, to read the Quran is to do penance. And for those of you who, penance is where you punish yourself for your sins. So reading the Quran, you're punishing yourself for your sins. But
yeah, precisely.
The Quran even challenges humans and the jinn for that. If the Prophet, a human, had made...
Oh, we got a problem here. That challenge. So he mentioned jinn. That was meant too, because not according to me, according to Muslim sources, Satan actually delivered verses to Muhammad. So Satan's a jinn.
The satanic verses.
Satan delivered verses promoting polytheism to Muhammad. Muhammad delivered the verses to his followers, and Muhammad bowed down in honor of the revelations, promoting prayer to Allat, Alusa, and Manat, 3 pagan goddesses. Muhammad bowed down in honor of the revelations. His followers bowed down, and the polytheists bowed down in honor of the revelations because they were thrilled that Muhammad spoke in favor of their goddesses. Later, the angel Gabriel supposedly came up to Muhammad and said, "What are you doing? That came from Satan, not from me." And then Muhammad had to go back and correct everyone. Sorry, I delivered those verses from Satan. But notice, according to the story,
Satan sounded just like Allah. Sorry.
So notice this, according to our friend here, the challenge is to even the jinn. Well, guess what? Satan did imitate verses of the Quran. Muhammad himself and all his companions combined could not tell the difference between the revelation from God and the revelation from the devil. They could not tell the difference. Guess what that means? Challenge met, according to Islamic sources, not according to us.
Destroyed. Can you believe the ridiculousness of that, by the way? I mean, we have talked about that quite a bit, but imagine you believe in a religion of a prophet who delivered the Quran by Allah with a perfect plan, word for word, and a complete rejection of different religions, a complete promotion of the true belief in the one God, Allah. But in the middle of it, Satan came and gave Muhammad these fake revelations of promoting worship or promoting tolerance or co-worship to these false gods that the pagans believed in, and which was then redacted because Muhammad noticed, oops, that was Satan, not Allah.
Book recommendation. Wow. This is before orthodoxy, the satanic verses in early Islam. This is written by the scholar Shahab Ahmed, and he gives 50, count them, 50 Muslim sources on the satanic verses.
Yeah. The story was spread and believed by Muslims themselves for the centuries, for the first centuries, and increasingly became more unpopular among Muslims because it was putting things in question, you know. And nowadays, some Muslim apologists go around saying, "No, it never happened."
Yeah.
Well, it is the Muslim sources themselves that say it happened. That's where we all get it from.
Yeah, and Shahab Ahmed, he actually breaks down how this happened. Originally for the first century and a half of Islam, there was a doctrine of Allah's protection of the prophets, Ismat al-Anbiya, Allah's protection of the prophets. And the doctrine for the first century and a half of Islam was that Allah would protect a true prophet from persisting in any sort of major error. So you might do something really messed up, but Allah is going to bring you out of it. And so the theology of the time, they didn't have a problem with the story of the satanic verses because the story of the satanic verses actually fits in with that quite nicely. Muhammad promoted polytheism, he committed shirk, but then Allah brings him out of it and corrects him. So it actually fit. Well, after a while, the doctrine, the theology changed, and the doctrine came to mean, the doctrine of Allah's protection of the prophets came to mean that Allah would protect his prophets from committing any sort of major error, not from persisting in it, from committing it at all. And notice, once that's your doctrine, well, you got a big problem if Allah is going to protect his true prophets from committing any sort of major error, and you've got this story with 50 sources on how Muhammad delivered revelations promoting polytheism. We got a problem here. So what do? Do they change their theology to line up with the history, or do they change their history to line up with the theology? They changed their history. We need to throw out all these sources, and that's what they did, and somehow not a problem for Muslims.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. All right.
Made the Quran himself. Why would he risk embarrassing himself needlessly by challenging all humans? And
it is embarrassing. Anyway, go ahead.
What kind of stupid law?
The satanic verses, that challenge to the jinn was the most embarrassing. I would say it's the most embarrassing. I'm trying to think because he's got some serious competition about all the embarrassing, stupid stuff he did. But satanic verses, I'd have to put that at the top.
I think one of the most embarrassing things is his whole idea that this little guy in his presence was the Dajjal, and he was very obsessive about it, and he was like spying on that guy. But
problem number 6: the personal information of the Prophet. The Quran contains no personal information about the Prophet.
What?
Not his life, his children, or his wives. His name was mentioned
what?
in the entire Quran only.
What the heck is he talking about?
Which is much fewer than the mention of.
First off, wrong. Secondly, so what? How in the world is that an argument here? Thirdly, I don't even know what to say. I think we're done.
Yeah, no personal information. What are you talking about? I mean, Surah 37 is about Muhammad being required by Allah to take the wife of his own adopted son, That's a wife. Surah 66, the opening verses, that's about Muhammad. We already went through it. That's about Muhammad getting caught with his sex slave and then having to come back after swearing to his wives that he would. The Quran's filled with this sort of stuff about Muhammad's messed up relationships.
We already talked about quite a few things where Allah makes excuses for Muhammad, and that this could mean that it is actually made up by him or by something that he believes is true. So how in the world does that make any sense?
Other prophets, like Moses, who was mentioned 134 times, and his story came in 34 surahs of the Quran.
Yeah, because in the Quran, Muhammad tells a story of different prophets. He doesn't have to sit there and tell a story of himself, which never happened.
Yeah, yeah, and he's trying to keep in mind what he's trying to show here. He's trying to show that all these prophets agree with him. So he's taking all these stories from all these other people and giving them an Islamic spin, an Islamic twist, and that's all to justify him as a prophet. So it's all these stories about all these other guys supposedly show that they're all in line with him. And by the way, again, it's filled with personal information about Muhammad. Way too much information, if I may say.
Too much.
Jesus was also mentioned dozens of times. Abraham,
because he had to include Jesus to appeal to the Christians and say, look, even Jesus actually agrees with us, not with you Christians.
Noah, Joseph, and other.
And by the way, notice the insanity of this point, because notice he's saying if this were Muhammad, it would have included way more information about Muhammad if Muhammad were the actual source, even though we know it contains a ton of information. But suppose we go with his claim that the Quran doesn't contain personal information about Muhammad, and he's saying, it contains more about Jesus and more about Moses. Well, quick question: if the Quran comes from Allah and Muhammad is the final prophet, why is Allah talking about all these other guys and not about Muhammad? Why? I mean, really, if it's not something about Muhammad and he's not the source of the revelations, it's from Allah, why wouldn't Allah spend more time talking about his greatest and final prophet than all these other guys?
Well, he does say a few times, "O messenger, you are not insane. O messenger, you are not crazy. Oh, you are not a liar, as they say. You are not this. You are not that."
What kind of prophet needs to be constantly told that he's not insane?
Listen. You are not crazy. You are not a liar.
You're not crazy. AP, you're not crazy. Good, Every 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you you're not crazy, so you know you're not crazy.
They're telling me that they're saying I'm lying.
AP, do you know anyone who's not actually crazy who needs to be reassured every 5 seconds that he's not crazy?
I guess in this we have an example in Muhammad here. So
it's one. He's the only one.
For prophets.
Oh boy.
So if he was the one who had made the Quran himself, wouldn't he have given himself more credit, or at least talked about his struggles more often?
No.
So as we can see here, this first possibility that the prophet came up with the Quran himself is actually illogical and full of problems and questions.
See, he said it. He said the word again.
Conclusion.
Since he said illogical, we have to conclude that he is right and we are wrong. First point, he debunked us. Okay.
Powerful.
It is impossible that the prophet
impossible
and himself. But could it be that he used the help of others? Well, then let's look at possibility number 2.
Bro, it's been 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
And this is already so stupid, and there's more stupidity. Do you want to continue next time?
You could give it up here, and we could just say, okay, his first point is stupid, and so the rest of the video doesn't get any. The rest of it doesn't get any better. Or we can continue. Or we can continue and do a part 2.
We can continue and make a part 2. I think we should react to the rest of it as well. As I see from here,
it's a good stopping point. It's a good stopping point.
The first point, which is very ridiculous, is already more than half of the video. The rest of it is the second half of the video, and we can just react to that a different time. We could do that.
That works.
Yeah, that works for me as well. That works for me. So, unfortunately, we have not converted to Islam as a result of this.
Wow. Shows how stubborn you are.
Yeah, or maybe I'm stupid. I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb or something. Maybe that's the problem here, because obviously this is very logical, as we have heard many times. So if it's logical and I'm not convinced by it, then that must mean that I'm illogical and I'm stupid. There is no other possibility. Anything else is impossible. Impossible. Yeah. Yeah. And any of you at home who are watching this, if you have not converted to Islam, then you are stupid.
And dumb.
And dumb. And dumb. There is no other possibility. It's anything else is impossible. Yeah. Stephen Young says there is no God, but the science, and Fauci is his messenger. Well, you're walking on very thin ice here, man. You're putting a target on yourself. I don't know what you're doing here, but but yes. Ronaldo said, Alhamdulillah, Quran 78:31-33 made me a true believer. 78:31-33 doesn't ring a bell. What is that?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Doesn't ring a bell. I'm not gonna.
Are there even that many?
78 should.
Are there even that many?
There are that many verses? Yes. 78. Indeed, the righteous is attainment, gardens, and grapevines, and full-breasted companions.
Yeah. I've used that verse a million times.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like something.
Maidens with swelling breasts.
Yeah, full-breasted virgins and a full cup in heaven, and fruits and rivers of wine and stuff. So that is definitely a good reason to believe in Islam here.
Keep in mind that that's actually an important point, because that is why Muhammad started getting large numbers of followers. At first, when it was, no one can write something like my book, most people didn't care. He didn't win very many followers. When it became, hey, join me in fighting and subjugating people, fight for me, and if we win, we take their wives and daughters home as our spoils of war and to become our sex slaves. And if you get killed, well, you're going to paradise, and you're going to get these big boobied maidens who sit around all day wondering how to pleasure you. And that's when he started getting tons of followers.
I mean, that's a good deal, right? He says to these people who are very, very lusty, he says, hey guys, join me. If you win, if we fight and win, then you will get these women and all the wealth. If we lose, if you die, then you will get something even better. You will get many women with big boobs and transparent skin and all of that. So they're like, wow, okay. I mean, this is perfect. Like, perfect deal.
What am I still doing? Sign up?
What am I still doing here?
Let me rip off my armor and run out into battle, so I definitely get killed.
Oh man, what a religion! What a religion, man.
You know what's interesting? That this is an important point. What's interesting is how.
What a religion, man.
How keep in mind, early on in Islam, that's one of the main selling points, right? You don't see Muslims in the West using this, right? You don't see.
They should.
Yeah,
they should.
Right. If you really believe this is one of Muhammad's most powerful arguments, which it is. I mean, that's when you had tons of people converting. Hey guys, it's all about the Allah's eternal whorehouse. That's what everything's about. You spend eternity deflowering virgins. That's what impressed Muhammad's generation. And Muslims, it's all about pure monotheism and the pure worship of one. No, it's not.
It's about
deflowering virgins. That's what your prophet said.
It's actually about the Kalam cosmological argument,
cosmological
improved within an Islamic lens, and big.
We should make a skit where you play an Islamic apologist and you're on stage and you're giving an argument. And I just walk out there and I slap the crap out of it and you go, "Oh, it's about the virgin, son!" Right? We'll just do that. You giving a good old fashioned dawah argument, and that would be fun.
These are very deep arguments. Yeah, you and I should dress up as Muslim apologists, as Muslims, and go out somewhere and invite people to Islam and record it and tell them that if they join, they will get a bunch of women in paradise, or they will fight and take booty and stuff like that. That would be an amazing amazing project, man. I bet we could convert a lot of people. We would be much better. We would have a much better head count than all the others combined here.
But by the way, that might be for those of you who make videos. I can't imagine I would be making this one, but I am an unstoppable fire hose of good ideas. For those of you who make videos, one good video to make along these lines would be something to do with Andrew Tate and how to get a quick following, right? Notice Tate's doing the same thing. Follow me, you'll get tons of girls and Bugattis and girls all around you at all time, blah 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 blah. What was Muhammad's message? Join me, you're going to be surrounded by virgins in paradise forever, doing whatever you want. Notice they're both doing the exact same thing, different details, but same idea. In other words, Andrew Tate's ideal dream house of what a guy should live like, that's Allah's paradise. It's the same thing.
Yeah. But Muhammad didn't have a Bugatti, so there's a difference.
You can't say there's no Bugattis in Allah's paradise. Everyone's rolling with a Bugatti.
Yeah, maybe he does have one there.
You get 72 Bugattis.
72 Bugattis. Oh my God. Mosh Cohen said, morning, 3:19 a.m. from Israel. I've seen all of your debates against the Hajis. It's amazing how much worse they use to basically say nothing. You see? Nice.
And that is, I mean, that's a good description of the video we just watched. It's like the attitude is, if we just say a bunch of stuff, no matter how dumb the points are, it somehow adds up to a great point. I mean, it's like arguing, Muslims arguing that there are prophecies about Muhammad in the Bible. It's as long as we have a bunch of bad ones, it adds up to a good point somehow. Even though you can go point by point and show how dumb they are, somehow if you just say a bunch of them, even if they're all individually ridiculous and stupid, it adds up to some brilliant presentation.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Andrew Tate also makes $50 per subscriber on his subscription plan, where he promises 72 Bugattis, and he currently makes about $10 million per month or something with the subscriber count that he has. So I would say that he's definitely ahead of Muhammad here.
Well, he doesn't exactly have access to it in solitary in jail.
Yeah, I could say. Anyway, shout out to greetings to Mosh Cohen here, and shalom to my second home in Israel. D. Boudreau said someone needs to clip that piece out and say David converted to Islam. Which piece?
Yeah. I'm assuming. Did we say we converted because of the video earlier? It was so powerful.
Probably, yeah. No, the piece where you were singing where you were reciting the verses. Maybe that's what.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. But
there's like 20 different things she could be referring to.
maybe that was amazing. All right. Wait a minute. Okay. Jean Rossi said, Mental Hacker said, I prophesied that you will read this super chat.
Oh, and you did. You just did. You just did it. He said it. That's way more powerful than Muhammad's prophecy about the Romans after it already happened.
This guy is a prophet. This guy is a prophet. And I just see that he also has a YouTube verification tick, which means he has an actual YouTube channel, which is interesting. Wow. So this guy is a prophet. Find this guy, follow him, fight for him, die for him, get virgins for him in heaven. Wow. You know what I learned over the weekend or over the last week, by the way? There's this rapper. He's dead now. But this rapper who was recently alive, I think by the name of Juice WRLD or something like that. And he was making these very, very sad, emotional rap songs. Has quite a nice, impressive voice. And he died of an overdose at the age of 21. And there is a song of him, a song called Legends. In that song, he says, what is 27 Club? We don't make it past 21 or something like that. And he died 6 days after his 21st birthday of an overdose. So he basically, in his song, prophesied that he wouldn't make it past 21. And it actually came true. And now he's dead.
You should use that. Roddy
I
Piper.
figured this out, and I now follow him as a true prophet. By the way, yeah.
Roddy Piper, the wrestler, was once saying that people asked him why, when he's all old, he started wrestling again, and he said, because my pension doesn't kick in until I'm 65, and he said, let's face it, I'm not going to see 65, and he didn't. He died before then. So you see, another prophet.
You see. I will die before the age of 120. Stefan Milevich said, David, you were right. The prophet really died from poisoning from Jewish lady. There is so much evidence. I try hard, but I can't find counter evidence. Yeah.
No, that's indisputable, I would say. Even from an Islamic perspective, because Muhammad said he was dying from the poison. So, yeah, you have to say Muhammad's wrong. So in other words, the only people who could say it didn't happen would be non-Muslims. Non-Muslims could say, how do we know what he was dying from? He could have been sick from anything, and he could have thought it was because of that. But apart from that, I mean, he was poisoned. Woman tried to poison him. Muhammad swallowed some of it. It killed another person. They even threw, in order to test it afterwards, they even threw a piece of meat to a dog, and the dog just dropped dead from it. And Muhammad had gotten some in his mouth. It disfigured his mouth. And he said he was in pain up until he died from it. So, yeah.
I just want to point out here. So this guy is a true prophet who actually prophesied his own death. Jews world, by Islamic logic, this guy is definitely a true prophet, and we should believe him and follow him. Which is why I have recently become actually a believer. And anyone who wants to counter and refute me should just answer how he could prophesy his own death. It's clearly from Allah. Burak Airlines said, Ulala Kahar said, hi AP, can you please also address Southeast Asian 1-3? What? I don't know. But thank you, yes. So I don't know what this is in reference to. Also said, can you come with Adam Seeker or ex-Muslim style? Probably, yes. Maybe I could invite them. I don't know. I don't have much contact with people at the moment. Loreto Tubal said super sticker, and I can see it here, but it is indeed a super sticker that I can see on a different screen. And since this says super sticker here on the screen, and it is indeed a super sticker, that just means this is a true prophecy, and this guy is also a true prophet. Death Culture said, some advice for debating Muslim apologists. I might be having my first live debate in a couple of months, namely want to focus on Quran and Muhammad specifically. I would say get ready for a lot of distractions, a lot of personal distractions, a lot of talking about nothing, and just make sure you stay on task and focus on precisely the matter at hand. There are so many sources, so many resources that you can find on channels like David Wood. Oh wait, David Wood deleted his channel. And Apostate Prophet and others. Yeah.
And it doesn't look like anything is set so far. He says, might be having my first live debate, and that he wants to focus on the Quran and Muhammad. Keep in mind, which is shocking, most Muslim debaters are not going to want to talk about Muhammad and the Quran. They're going to want to talk about something else, which is interesting, right? Because all of Islam comes down to, the reliability of the Muhammad and the reliability of Muhammad and the reliability of the Quran. And almost no one wants to talk about that. They want to talk about everything else, but not that. Step one is getting them to agree. And the way I would go about that is issue the challenge to debate. Let's say was Muhammad a true prophet or something like that. And then people will turn you down. And then, so ask, is there any Muslim willing to debate this? Is there any Muslim willing to come for a live debate and debate this? And so if a lot of the Muslim Dawah guys don't want to do it, great. Find someone who will. Find someone who's got some confidence to stand up for Muhammad.
Even the great Muslim apologist and debater the Honorable Ali Dawa, for example, when we were talking about debating, which he challenged me to initially, he would not agree to a debate that is not about something else besides Islam. So he forced me to accept the debate, which was like atheism versus Islam. But then in the end, he made many excuses and stepped out of that debate as well, and then challenged me to curse myself in front of a live audience if I am lying about Islam, which I also did, but nothing happened. So very interesting stuff, these Muslim apologists.
And also keep in mind along those lines. I'm not talking about everyone, because there are people who are truthful, but a lot, let's say a disturbingly large proportion of Dawa guys and their followers do not believe they have any obligation to be honest with you at all. And a lot of them seem to view it as praiseworthy if they deceive you along the way. So just keep in mind with what kind of people you're dealing with here.
Yep, precisely. All right. Please do Zakaria Bears, Adnan Oktar, Boom Boom Room. Oh. Well, nobody really knows Adnan Oktar outside of Turkey. Some people do. David might have heard of that guy.
Wait, is that guy who had a sex cult?
Yes.
That's like the Turkish Andrew Tate, man. But it was the same thing, because I went to his website once because someone is using it as an argument or something like that, and so was using something he said as an argument. I went to his site, and there were like 100 pictures of him. Like that's all I saw was pictures of him everywhere. It's like, this dude's a narcissist, but it's the same idea.
Insane guy. No, he always had these girls sitting, these women sitting in his office and praising him.
Notice all these hot girls with all this like way too much makeup on, but that is the exact same mentality as like Tate,
and he was taken down, and the findings were that a lot of it was human trafficking and forcing those women, basically inviting them under different promises and forcing them to undergo surgery, to do different things, and then to stay with him and to do all kinds of work with him, and basically like blackmailing them.
I can't tell who you're talking about. Are you talking about Tate? Or are you talking about?
See, I was talking about that Muslim cult leader in Turkey, Adnan Oktar, and Andrew Tate is currently under investigation for the exact same things, and that I would say is just a coincidence. House of Hikmah made a super chat. House of Hikmah made a super chat of $9.99. Thank you so much, House of Hikmah.
He's got the Hikmah.
Yeah. Grays174 said, what is the Muslim response to Galatians 1:8? Seems like a pretty immediate falsifier of Islam to me. Is it less simple than I'm seeing it? What is it, David?
Galatians 1:8 is the Apostle Paul says that if anyone preaches a different gospel, let him be eternally condemned. And the response there, ladies and gentlemen, would be they don't have to believe in the Apostle Paul. Although you can go back and find Muslims along the way who believed that Paul was a true apostle. Eventually, Muslims realized they had to blame someone because what you read in the Bible doesn't line up with what Muhammad said. So they had to blame someone. So a lot of Muslims blamed the Apostle Paul. Paul must have corrupted Christianity. And therefore, most Muslims would say, we don't care what Galatians said. We only care what like Jesus said, something like that.
Yeah. Yep. And that is, of course, what you do when you don't have a way out of your very strange beliefs here. Sarah Rainey made a super sticker, which is a little kitty or something. Very nice. Thank you, Sarah. Always good seeing you here. Always been here for years. House of Hikmah said, hey guys, do it Trouble by Elvis, because we know AP is an evil atheist. What?
You'd have to sing the chorus, the evil, because I'm not evil.
But
I can do the if you're looking for trouble, came to the right place. If you're looking for trouble, just look right in my face. Right. And then you get to the chorus, and then he says, 'Cause I'm evil, my middle name is misery. You got to sing that part. Yeah. I'll sing the part about being trouble, and you sing the part about being evil.
I would sing I'm evil because I am an atheist or something like that. Yeah. And Nanaverse, hi Nanaverse, nice seeing you here as well. Said, on behalf of Orthodox Shahada, I emailed you. Get back to me when you can, yo. If you don't, on behalf of Yajuj and Majuj, I curse you. Thank you. I will look into it. Nanaverse, as always. Thank you. There was one more super chat here, which I cannot find for some reason here in my list.
Pure disrespect to your supporters.
Corley, which says, what is the beads AP and where is no more Prophet Tales? Prophet Tales is just my laziness, honestly. I have to get back to Site 10 and say, hey, let's continue. I bet he's just waiting for news from me. Last time he said he's, oh yeah, he has a super chat. Last time he said he's ready whenever I am. So I'm supposed to get back with my next scripts and skits and plans. I will do that soon. I'm slowly trying to come back. I took a little bit of a time off that was involuntary.
It's hard coming back, man.
It's hard.
It's hard coming back.
It's hard. It's hard.
Your brain changes without the constant.
It's not easy, man. It's hard. Jackie, oh yeah, I just read that. And what was the beads? The beads are just meditation beads that I sometimes use, and I just put them around my neck for no reason other than I just wanted to have fun. Yeah. Guys just want to have fun. That's how the song goes. And there's a Buddha head here for those who want to, I don't know, blame me for something. Or
guys just want a Bugatti.
Guys just want a Bugatti. Finally, one more super chat. And here, Aldo, do you think Mo was trying to tell everyone he wasn't actually a prophet when he said he felt as if his aorta was being cut?
I can't.
We have different opinions on this one, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can't rule that out as a possibility, but I don't think so. I think it was just saying it's some sort of pain. Oh, something's killing me right here. I feel my aorta being severed and so on. Yeah. So I don't think. See, here's the weird part. I wouldn't think that he's actually connecting this with what Allah said, but it's just weird that, I mean, this is supposedly things that, his most loyal followers had memorized, right? And they've got it in their heads, and then he says it. So I can't rule it out, but yeah, I don't think so. I think he was just talking about being in extreme pain. Yeah.
I think it was just a regular Arabic way of saying that I'm in severe pain, I'm dead, I'm dying, oh no. And he basically uttered that. He said, I'm in severe pain, as David just expressed, and that's it. I don't ever make a connection between that and the Quran verse saying that if, that Allah would take a prophet's life by cutting off his aorta in case of whatever.
I make the connection because as far as Muslims, if you're not a Muslim, right? We're pointing this out as a problem for Muslims usually, right? Allah says this. Here's how you're going to die, and then Muhammad dies, saying, "Hey, that's exactly how I'm dying." It's weird because it's so specific that you wonder how he would not notice, or it might even give you the idea that he's confessing or something like that. Now, one of the common Muslim responses is similar to what AP said. They'll just say, no, it's not actually, saying, because notice, it wouldn't work if someone severed your aorta. You would not be sitting there talking about your aorta being severed, right? Yeah. It has to be a saying about pain or something like that. The problem with saying that it's this figure of speech or something like that is we would expect to see it elsewhere, and I'm not aware of seeing it elsewhere. But as far as Muslims using this as a response, because keep in mind, we can think whatever we want about this. We can think that it didn't happen. We can think that Muhammad never existed. We can think that we can think whatever we want. It's a problem for Muslims because their God said this is how Muhammad's going to die, and then Muhammad dies saying the exact same thing about why he's dying. So it's a problem for them. But notice when Muslims try to do what AP just did, namely, I don't care about connecting this because it could just be some reference to a lot of pain in my chest, a painful death where my chest is really hurting or something like that. Well, notice if that was just a common idiom or something like that, then the same reasoning would apply. Allah would be saying, if Muhammad fabricates revelations, he's going to die a extremely painful death with his chest and stuff like that. But then that's how Muhammad said he would die. So all of this right here, what you have is really looks like, according to Muslim sources, that Muhammad died from poison, but indisputably so from Muslims because their prophet said it. Their prophet is the one who said he was dying from poison. But then you have this additional problem of Muslims believe the Quran is a revelation from Allah. See, we don't believe that, so we can do whatever we want with it. Muslims believe it's a revelation from Allah, that this is how Muhammad's going to die if he fabricates a revelation. You also have passages like Tabari, volume 6, page 111, where Muhammad says that he fabricated verses regarding the satanic verses. And then you've got Muhammad saying that he died in exactly the way Allah said he would. And no matter how Muslims want to interpret the phrase, if they want to think it's specific, that it actually refers to feeling your aorta being severed, well, that's what happened. And if they want to think it's some sort of general idiom, it's still what happened. So either way, they've got the same problem. But yeah, the rest of us, sky's the limit with different conclusions we could come up with. But I would say, really looks like that's how Muhammad died. So whether you want to make a case that that should be connected with the verse, yeah, it's different. And notice there's this is a situation where Christians would be more open to the idea that those two are connected than an atheist like AP would, right? Because he doesn't believe there's a God to enforce this, whereas a Christian might be in the situation of, if this guy's running his mouth about Jesus all these years, and then he's also running his mouth about this is what God would do to me if I'm fabricating revelations. We believe that the Almighty can just strike this guy down and humiliate him in that way. So I think there's probably a lot more Christians who would be open to the idea that this was actually God punishing Muhammad for fabricating revelations.
Yep. That's true. I agree with you there. And with that said, we want to put an end to this. We didn't want to go over 1 hour, and we are quite close to
2. Story of our lives.
So yeah. Anyway, anything else that you want to add before we leave? You already said a lot. You already said too much because you talk so much. We make it 2 hours instead of 1 hour.
Can't help
but
I should carry a little timer that tells me when I need to shut up.
Yeah, I could just use sound effects here on my live streams. Right? And some people do that. I should do that too. Yeah. Anyway, when you show scripture support, they would resort to insult you, bro. Please explain to me about the Trinity, not the place, man. You can go and ask. Look at Nabil Qureshi. I don't know what that is supposed to be in reference to. I think it's nearly impossible for you to, mainly for David. I'm always on time. I always do everything exactly as planned. Later, AP and David Wood don't watch the new Matilda movie. What is a Matilda movie?
I did not know there was a Matilda movie.
I have no idea what Matilda movie is in reference to, and what Matilda is, and what a movie is. Little warning: do not let this man talk freely. I don't know who you are talking to and about. Why am I attracted to the Prophet if Islam is false? This is actually a very good question. With that said, I think we are done here. Too much internet for today. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a fantastic day. And as always,
stay away from Islam.
Do what he said.